Hey, welcome to The Feast Life, where we empower you, the modern homeschool mom, to create a life and homeschool you love. I'm Julie Ross, the creator of the award-winning curriculum A Gentle Feast, a homeschool veteran of over 20 years, and a certified Christian life coach. Charlotte Mason said, life should be all living, not a mere tedious passing of time. So on this show, we seek to savor the feast of life. So go get your favorite beverage and pull up a chair. You're welcome at this table. Hello, welcome to The Feast Life. So have you ever wondered what it's really like to use a gentle feast in your homeschool? Today, you won't just hear it from me. You're going to hear it straight from the families who are living it out every day. Whether you're brand new to an idea of a Charlotte Mason education, or you're wondering if a gentle feast could work for your family, these honest conversations will give you a window into what's possible when learning feels life-giving, flexible, and full of real connection. So grab a cozy drink and let's settle in. I can't wait for you to hear these beautiful stories from such wonderful families. Hey, Sarah. Thank you so much for being willing to talk about a gentle feast. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely.
So I'd love to hear your experience, your journey with homeschooling, and how you came to find a gentle feast and get started with it.
Okay, I married a second generation homeschooler. So he introduced me. Actually, I would say his mom did. So I was like, I'm from like a single mom background, raised in the public schools, all that. And so I met this crazy guy who just seemed different. And then I met his crazy mom. No, but she really is. She's amazing. And just seeing their family and their dynamics and just who they were just made me more curious about kind of that and just hearing them
Yeah,
homeschooled. I always say he was homeschooled when it wasn't cool.
it's
And
becoming
so,
cooler, thank
yes,
goodness, but I don't
definitely.
know if we've arrived at total cool yet.
Yeah, it's definitely a different time when she homeschooled and just learning from her. And she's just an amazing
That's
person.
great that you had that resource. Wow.
Yeah. And so that kind of just drew me in. And I was like, okay, I'm willing to try this and see how it works. And
Yeah,
of course, the firstborn's always the test subject.
right.
And let's see how this works out. And we were doing really good. We went to like more of a classical model when I
Uh-huh.
first started out homeschooling her. I was all over the page because
Okay.
I didn't really have a vision and I didn't
Mm.
really know where I was going. I just knew, okay, this seems cool. Let's do it. My husband seems normal. So maybe it will be okay.
I
So
love that.
yeah. But the more like I remember sitting down the first day with our Abeka curriculum, and she's a smart kid. She's amazing, bright kid. And I was like, I don't want to do this. This is not how I want to teach my kids.
Mm.
And it just was very formal, very rigid, and nothing wrong with Abeka. It just was what I used and what I had at the time.
Yeah.
It was just like, I don't know if I want to do it this way. And so
Mm.
it took me a while, though, to get to this place where I felt comfortable enough to be confident in who I
Mm.
was as a
Hmm.
homeschool mom and be able to say, no, this is what I want to do for our family. And so, about maybe I would say when she was about 12 is when we started
Okay.
kind of
Okay.
changing a little bit.
Okay. Okay.
Changing something when you're used to it's not right, but you're like, I'm too
Mm.
scared to do it, to
It's
change.
huge. Yeah,
Yeah.
it is so
Yeah.
huge. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that kind of led us to where I was like, I call it my homeschool midlife crisis. Whereas I don't know if this is what I want to do anymore. And I was trying to figure her out. Again, she's the oldest child. So you're like trying to navigate her and trying to figure, I have
Mm.
three other children too. But I was like, okay, what's best for her? And
Yeah.
I still to this day, I tell myself, I'm like, I don't even know how I discovered a gentle feast. I'm sure I
Okay.
was like clicking away,
Yep.
Charlotte Mason, I don't know, help me. And that just it came on my radar and I fell in love. I knew about Charlotte Mason, but I wasn't completely sold on Charlotte Mason.
Mm.
And so when I started just diving into your curriculum more, it also led me to start reading more CM, more of her books and stuff like that. And so I just was like, just the light bulb. It was like, yeah, this is what I've been searching for. This is what I want. And not only just for me, but for my kids as a whole too. And so that kind of led us to a gentle feast. I always say I started Charlotte Mason so much later with my 12-year-old, 13-year-old at the time.
Mm.
And I always felt so like I missed out, but really it made the
Mm.
transition so much easier and so
Mm.
much better. for us. I know if I didn't find you, I'd still be a mess seller.
Oh, you're so sweet. So, what do you feel like made that transition easier? Because a lot of people are like, is it too late? My kid's
Yeah,
14 and we've been doing this for forever, and
yeah,
I feel like I missed the boat. So,
yeah.
what was it like transitioning with an older child?
It wasn't easy, I'll be honest. It was hard because you're trying to sell them on, I don't want to say maybe, but you're trying to show them like, okay, I just need you to narrate. That was a
Mhm.
big thing right there, just learning
Mhm.
to
It's
narrate because
huge. It's really hard. Yeah.
she came from that rigorous classical model that was a lot different. And so having to
Hmm.
transition her to narration alone was hard. And
Hmm.
trying to show her that this is all I want. This is all I want from you.
Yeah.
And like she's a really amazing, bright kid. All my kids are, but she's a very also, I need you to direct, show me every step.
Mm,
Hard to give her that
yeah.
freedom
Mm,
and to say, you can do this. This is all I'm requiring. I want you to do this. And to be able to give her that freedom. I think that was a really hard transition. It seems
yeah.
something so simple, but
It
for her, it,
was. It's just like you're just telling me back what I you
yeah,
just read. Like, why can't you do this? And I think a lot of people, I'm so glad you said that because I think a lot of people expect that it's going to be easy. And
yeah,
especially if they have a child who's done something different, it is
mhm,
using such a different part of your brain and such a
yeah,
different complex thinking. And it's
yeah,
we all don't like to do hard things.
yeah,
It's like, where's the candy? I don't want to have to chew this broccoli. It's like chewing, it's hard mental work. And so giving your kids grace for that
mhm,
transition, I think is so key. I
yeah,
have heard from people though with older kids that it goes faster. They pick it up
yes,
faster than maybe a
mhm,
younger child would who's just building
yes.
that muscle, if you will. And through that experience and moving to more of a Charlotte Mason approach, like what changes have you noticed in your kids? What benefits have you seen from it? Those kind of things.
I would say definitely that narration process of getting them to think on their own. I know that's the
Mhm.
goal with narration is really getting their thoughts, not a formula. And I've noticed that a lot in their writing. Because they're now my kids, my other two, my high schooler, 16 and 13-year-old,
Okay.
they do more written narrations. And in that, I
Yeah.
noticed a deeper thinking there. And
Mhm.
so for me, that's been a huge benefit because that was always that getting out of the formulaic method,
Mhm.
really getting them to think deeply and really getting their own thoughts and their personal reflections. And like my form three, it's not perfect, but I still love her writing out of, and I
Mhm.
still love those narrations because she tries to add her Gen Z slang to her narrations.
I love it. I love
But I'm
it.
like, it's her. And that's
Yep.
is. And so I do really appreciate that. And I begin to see that. And I've noticed that even with my oldest, she's at college right now. And just seeing her thinking outside of the box, her talking
Mhm.
about the way she's coming up in some of her classes and this and that. And she's still early on in her classes, but it's neat to see that they truly become their own person. They are
Mhm.
persons. They are born persons. And to really see that, I'm just, I still have a young 19 adult child, but adult, I say that, but it's still neat to see her kind of transition into that mode of thinking that I don't think would have
Mhm.
happened without a CM education. I really believe that.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So next you have a daughter's a freshman in college?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, and then two teenagers.
Yes.
Okay.
And then an 8-year-old boy who
Oh, okay. Okay. Fun. Yes, it's very similar to me. My last four girls, then a boy.
oh,
Um, so what has the experience been like using this in high school? Because a lot of people are like, this is cute for younger grades, but when they're in high school, they need like the
mm,
textbooks and the workbooks so we can make sure that they're having everything they need and they're prepared for college.
yeah. And that really bothers me.
Me too.
Whenever they're like, "Where's the rigor?" And I'm like, "Okay." First of all,
Like, come read this book, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Have you seen the reading? There are some really good books on there. And I think too, that was a huge shift why we went to SEAM education because even in some of these more, I guess what you'd call neoclassical models, it's very rigorous and it's focused
Mhm.
on college. What's your end goal?
Yep.
And I feel like with a Charlotte Mason education, especially in high school, it's so much more well-rounded. Like I've known
Mhm.
that like with my kids, that's why we wanted to transition. I'm like, it's more than they're more than just a textbook and five AP classes and all these things. They're
Yeah.
more than just that. And I feel like it's given them such a well-rounded education. Things like nature study or
Mhm.
natural sciences, which I totally like, I'm horrible at doing. But those are things that you see that power of observation in everyday
Mhm.
life and making them into a whole person, not just a person who's only defined by their grades. Or
Mhm.
I always use the example of my husband because he was homeschooled and he didn't have any methods. And but he's not a college guy. He
Yeah.
never was. And if he was only defined by what college did you go to, what grades did you get, I think that would have been really disappointing.
Mhm.
And his, like I said, his parents, they gave him a really great homeschool experience. And he's self-employed, provides for his family, loves his family, and does all those things for us. And I'm
Mhm.
like, he's not just defined by the
Yep.
college he went to, the degree he got. He's defined as a whole person. And I wanted that for my kids. And a CM education in high school, it is very rigorous. People need to check out those books.
Yeah,
I read some of them. I'm like, oh, you have fun with that.
right.
Okay. But I think it's just, it's such a deeper level. And it's been so cool to see that in my girls and to see them grow in that. And to, yes, there's times where we're pushing through a hard book, a very hard book. But there's also times when they have the freedom in the afternoons to be
Mhm.
creative, be exploring. They're not just defined by grades and college, and those things are good. But in the end, I want them to develop as a whole person. And
Mhm.
it's not just about what's all in here and
Yeah,
how many books you read and all this. It's about who you are as a person because that
absolutely.
really prepares you for life.
Yep, no matter what you do.
This
Yep.
book does.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
But I know there's the parent going, but what if they want to go to college? Like, will they be prepared?
Yes. Yeah, and that's why I say for my oldest, she is the typical oldest child, very
Mhm.
motivated, she was needed still that structure. And
Mhm.
so I found within a Charlotte-based education, I'm still able to give her that. And we still had the structure, but yet she also was being created to be a deeper thinker because that matters in college. It's
Yes.
more than just getting through the textbook. They want you to think at a deeper
Right.
level. And she's seeing that and knowing that now. And
Mhm.
she did want to go to college. We always made it like you didn't have to.
Right.
That's not our
Yeah.
goal. We're just that was us. But if you do, these are what's going to have to happen. Like these are the
Mhm.
things that you have to do. She still had to take the ACT. She still had
Yep.
to do those things, but she was very well prepared. I always say though on the I laugh on the ACT because the first time she took it, she was overthinking every question. She's like, I'm like, you're taking too long. And she's like, I know, but I'm really thinking through this question. And I'm like, why would they write it this way? I'm like,
Mm.
sadly, you're too smart for that.
Yeah. 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 We can't do deep thinking here.
You
Just
can't do
what
deep
first
thinking on
response. Yep.
this. So she was very well prepared, just in a different way on that. It does prepare them for that. And she got into college. And especially with the gentle feast, we did all four cycles. And so I think I saw a question about how to prepare a transcript on the Facebook
Yeah.
page. And I was like, it's really easy. Just go to the back of the book and
Yep.
Julie. It's not as complicated as they make it out to be.
Oh yeah.
And she did really good. She got a scholarship there and
That's fantastic.
I would say it's her first year. She's doing really well. She loves her classes. And I know for a fact it prepared her well. Like it's done very well for her. So I
Yeah.
would say to the naysayers, don't worry, you're overthinking
You're doing the same thing as my daughter in the
it.
ACT. Yeah, it is hard to trust the process because it is such an important thing and you
Yeah,
want to prepare your children well for the future. But yes,
yeah.
I totally agree with you. And that's been my daughter's experience too, is that they're over prepared and they're like, yeah, mom, you made us read all these books and we haven't read any books this year in my
Yeah.
college classes. Like,
Yeah.
I'm like, really?
Yeah, that
What?
even makes me more sad. I'm
I know,
like,
right? Thank you so much for sharing your experience. Is there anything else you'd like to point out about your kind of journey with the general feast that we haven't touched on?
I guess other than it's just been, I think the books that, and I think you've said this in a lot of the talks I've heard you do, there's always those books that you think your kids would never like.
Oh, yes.
And I think be confident in those choices.
Can you share one? Do you have one that like they
Well,
did not like, but then
I would
something
say
happened?
definitely The Chosen.
Okay.
That was in cycle 4.
Yep. For
And
high
for my
school.
oldest, I was
Or
like,
form three, maybe. I can't remember.
yes. And I was like, I don't think she's gonna like this one. And I read, she's a crazy reader, but her reading taste is
Yeah,
different.
of
And so I'm
course.
like, oh, okay. But she refers back to that book all the
It's
time. And
powerful.
that was a very powerful book for
It is a
her.
powerful book. Yeah.
Yeah. And I would say the natural sciences,
Mm.
like those ones I'm always like, I'm not gonna really like reading this. And then that John Muir book, that John Muir essays, just it blew me
Mm.
away how much she loves that book. My 16-year-old right now. And
Yeah,
she's
you were sharing you all went to Yosemite because of that, or it was
no,
relation or to it, or she
she's
brought it
like,
up or
can we
something.
go to Yosemite? I'm like, not yet. So my daughter, we live in Missouri, and my daughter is
Okay.
out in California. My oldest daughter went to
Okay.
school out in California.
Okay.
We took a road trip out there, and we couldn't go to where she's at school. It's more in Southern
Yeah, right.
California. So I was like, we can surprise him with the Grand Canyon. And so
Oh,
that,
that's what it was. Okay.
yeah. And for her, it was like, it was getting to that experience of seeing nature for the first time and getting to enjoy that. And whenever she's out in nature, she's seen it through the way that John Muir sees it through his.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was very powerful. I didn't tell her to do that. It's
Yeah.
that book that just really spoke to her. And I was like, really? And I'm like, and so she found, I think in the Grand Canyon, we went to the gift shop and she found a book. It's in that same series. We've seen the art cover, the John Muir
Yeah.
essays. And so there's a bunch of books in that series. And so she found one by an author who went to the Grand Canyon
Oh,
and
that's so
wrote.
cool.
And so she's, I'm getting this. I love this. And so just to experience like books that sometimes you feel like, oh, I don't know, this seems
Yep.
so old or outdated, or is this really going to work? And it just amazes me how much it does.
No, I love that. That is such a beautiful example of
Yeah.
the feast too, right? Like you're
Yes.
providing a taste of all these different subjects. You have no idea what your kid might.
Yes.
And it's oftentimes the thing you think that they're going to hate that becomes their new thing. And you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I exposed them to this piece of classical
Yes.
music and now they're this musician. And but you
Mhm.
have no idea what that is. And so having that varied feast is so important rather than going, this is what they like. So we're only going to teach about this. They're
Yes.
missing
Yeah.
out
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
experiences that you don't know are possible. And one of my daughters was the same way. I interviewed her I take a graduation trip with my kids when they graduate high school. And so I interviewed her. We were in Ambleside. We went to England. It was so fun.
Oh
And
my.
but I was like, "What was your favorite book?" And I was expecting her to say some sort of Jane Austen kind of thing, which is part of why we went to England. And she goes, "My favorite book was The Girl of Limberlost." And I was like,
Mhm.
"Really?" And again, it was the same thing. It was one of those natural history books. And I was like,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I said, "That's really interesting. I would not have picked that one for you." And I said, "Why, why was that your favorite?" She goes, "That book shaped me the most as a person."
Wow.
I
Wow.
was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, okay." We're doing
Yes.
this. This is why we're
Yes.
doing this. So thank you so much for taking the time to share your experience. I know this will be so helpful to so many people. So I
Yes.
appreciate it.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so I wanted to ask you about the new membership because you've been using Gentle Fees for a while.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are like, I already have all this stuff. What would I
Mhm.
need the membership for? So can you kind of share a little bit about what kind of inspired you to join the membership and then what you've seen in there so far?
Yeah, I definitely was one of those people like, I have everything. And I was like, this is good for younger kids or form one, or if you were just starting out, I was like, this is amazing, but I'm good. I have everything. But then I went on the demo site. I was like, oh man. And I said, one, definitely all the extras that you're throwing in there. I'm like, okay, that's huge. And then I wanted to look at the Form 3 and Form 4,
Mhm.
and I saw just how the plans were laid out. And I'm like, yeah, I do need this. Just because I can be too relaxed at times. And so I think still having that little bit of structure and
Mhm.
watching a lot of your videos and talking about how you want it to give us that structure, but still give us that freedom. And I
Mhm.
always joke, I'm like I'm a huge office nerd. And so there's a Ryan the temp going, lead me, but don't tell me what to do.
Yeah. I love that. I'm going to start quoting that.
So that's how I feel like I was like, yeah, I do. I want this and I still need that. And I also, because I had asked on the page, just like I think you had mentioned too, like you're testing it out with your kids and
Mm.
they're able to just go on there and get the work done. And I think that would be huge, especially for my high schoolers. They still love
Yeah.
that independence, but to be able to have something just a little bit more laid out, I think it's going to be really huge for them. And that I was like, okay, I'm sold. Give me here's all my money, take it. I'm good.
Yeah, I really wanted for the older kids, just not the little ones, but like for the older kids to be able to go in and go, okay, here's my assignment. Here's what I'm
Yeah.
supposed to be. Here's some narration things to think about. Here's and be able to mark it
Mhm.
as complete and start to manage their own time, which I think is so
Yes.
important, especially whatever future your child does, whether they're working a trade or going to college, like they're going to need to know how to manage their time and get their
Yes.
assignments done
Yep.
and focus.
Yep.
So having it be like, okay, well, you're not needing me to constantly be prodding you, telling you what to do next. Like you can go in and you
Yes.
can do the next thing on that I've assigned you and but
Yeah.
also have a little more support if you need it. And then
Yeah.
being able to have an app is really helpful because
Yes.
we might be going places or whatever. We go to the coffee shop sometimes to do school. Like they can just bring their iPad and everything they need is on the iPad. I'm not having to carry stacks of books and all that.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It's
Well,
huge. Yes. And I would say
yeah.
the community too so far has
Okay.
been really,
Isn't it so
really
fun?
good.
It's so different.
Yes. Yes.
It's because and that's always been my heart. Is I want to know these people. I want to connect people with each other so that they can help each other. And in a Facebook group, it's hard, a little circle with someone's picture on it. But in the community, especially the app, is so convenient that it's, oh, here are them, here are their kids. And
Yes.
oh, I live 20 minutes from you. And like, just that's really fun to see.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing your experience.
Yeah. You're welcome.
Kara, do you mind telling me just a little bit about your kiddos, how old they are, how long you've been homeschooling, and a little bit just about your journey and how you ended up with using a gentle feast? I'd love to know
Yeah,
how you got
yeah,
started.
no, yeah. My kids are, I have a boy who's 12, Levi, a daughter who is 8, Julia, and then I have a 2-year-old who is, yeah, who is Caleb. Yes, he was a surprise.
So fun.
Yeah. How we got to Genevieve. So we lived in Cincinnati for a long time. That's where I grew
Okay.
up. And there's a really big homeschool Charlotte
Yep.
Mason community in Cincinnati.
Oh, awesome.
And so a lot of my friends were parents who had older kids already, and they were already doing Charlotte Mason. And I was like, oh, what is Charlotte Mason? That's
That's so
interesting.
great that you had that.
Yeah, I studied early childhood education. Like I went back to school for
Yeah.
early childhood education and learned a lot about like different, just like ways of learning. And so I'd done Montessori
Yeah.
for a while, and I was like, this is exhausting.
Yeah.
So much stuff.
Yes.
So I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. And so then I heard about Charlotte Mason through them, and I joined a book study, and they were reading through some of her works. And so I
That's
was
awesome.
like, gosh, I love this. This is so perfect. I love everything about it. And so I started like researching how I would do it myself. And I was like, okay, I guess Amplify Online is the way to do it. And I
Yeah.
was just like, gosh, so Alvieri had started the that year that I was like researching had come out, and my friends were doing the Alvieri, and I was like, whoa, this is intense. Everything feels really like a lot.
Mm.
And I was like, I guess I could use all my energies to figure out a curriculum, but I was like, I'm feeling exhausted already doing it. And so I was like, there's got to be something else. So I like was looking all over the internet. I was like, surely there's something out there. And then I found your website, and it was back
This
when you
was a while ago, right?
oh
Like
wow. It was back when you were
7 years ago.
doing
Yeah.
colors. You were doing the colors.
Oh gosh. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, a long time ago.
Yeah. And I was just like, I watched you like had a video or something like maybe it was a video, I don't remember, but it was just like I was like, oh, okay. It can be calm. It
Mm.
can be nice. And it can be like laid out for me that I can use my energy in like presenting everything instead of
Mm.
spending all that time using my creative energy to create a curriculum for myself, basically. I
Yeah.
was like, I
Right.
have the skills to do it, but I'm like,
Yeah, because you had a background in it, right?
yeah. It's like I have the skills, but I'm finding it exhausting.
I
And
love what you
like,
say about like energy, like being able, like, because we all have limited energy, right? And
yeah,
so, like, some people really just love planning and love figuring out all the pieces. Obviously, I really like that. But then it's like, I also want to have the energy to be doing those nature experiences with my kids or reading the books and not be exhausted because I spent so much time planning. And so it really depends on everybody's strengths and weaknesses and interests. But I love how you worded it about you get to make that choice as the parent of like, where do I want to spend my time and energy? Do I want to spend it on the planning part or do I want to have that energy for more of the implementation? I love that.
yeah, absolutely. And I love going through the books, and I still enjoy the pulling up the book list and like
Oh, yeah.
looking at them and figuring out how it's going to work into our day. But that doesn't bog me down in the same
Mm.
way that trying to figure out everything does. And just like being presented with, here's a list of things to start, like, here you go. You can
Yeah.
just do it all like this, or you can tweak it a little bit because as we've been doing it, so I think we're in our 8th year of doing homeschooling. And so I'm like, okay, now I can change things here and there because we read books. You read books when you start reading, like with your
Right.
kids. And so sometimes you have to make changes. And
Absolutely. Right.
that's fun for me instead of having to figure it all out. And we also decided to sell all of our things and hit the road.
Oh my, okay.
And
With a 2-year-old
so
or is that before that?
that was before the 2-year-old.
Okay.
But I did have a 2-year-old because my
Oh
daughter was
wow.
2
Okay.
when we hit the road. And
That's amazing.
yes.
So how long have you been, are you still doing that?
No, we're not on the road. So when I got pregnant with my current 2-year-old,
Okay.
I was like, I don't think I want to do this again. I also
Yeah.
don't want to give birth in this trailer because I did home births. And I was like,
Wow.
I don't think so.
So how long were you on the road?
So we were on the road for 4.5 years.
Wow. What an incredible experience. That is
Yeah.
amazing. So yeah, my brain is just so like, where did you, can you just tell me? Like, did you just go everywhere? I'm like,
And yeah,
is
we
there a
just
place
went
you didn't go?
everywhere.
I'm thinking in 4 years, you could go a lot of places.
You can go so many places. So we were just like, we're gonna take this one like planned trip at a
Okay.
time. And so when
Okay.
we started out, it was pre-COVID.
Mm,
And so we're like, we'll just do a week or a month at a time and plan which campgrounds we're going to and pick some things to do in those
yeah.
places. A lot of it was based on what we were reading or uh,
Mm.
that kind of thing. So we hadn't fully, so my son was in kindergarten. My oldest son was in kindergarten when
Oh,
we
wow.
started. And
Okay.
so we weren't like fully doing homeschool yet.
Right.
And so I was just like
Yeah.
planning and prepping and all that kind of stuff. And so it was really fun to just travel. And then when it was like time for homeschool to start doing it, it was so easy. It was so easy with a gentle feast. Like
Wow.
I was like, here's the books, here's the how to do it, and we'll just set it up and go. And it was really nice because I could take a couple of books at a time with us. And I already knew that I had everything. So we had a storage unit of some things because I was like, I can sell everything except the things I can't replace.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so I would just keep a catalog of what books we had. And then when we were swinging through town, we would rotate. Sometimes I would just like order books to a campground.
Yeah. Amazon delivers
Like
all kinds of
they
places.
deliver everywhere.
Yes.
Or find a bookstore around or something like that.
Yeah. And
Um,
yeah. And there's not a ton. That's the thing too. It's people think like this misconception of Charlotte Mason, you must have all these stacks of books. And yes, you can because we love the books, but you don't have to have all those. And you can pare it down. And
yeah,
you're not juggling a bunch of teacher guides and workbooks.
correct.
That's way more
And
books.
not worksheets at all because that would be too much. And like
Mm,
even just sometimes when I would print stuff off that I wanted to, it was cumbersome
mm,
in the trailer to pull out everything and have it. And so that's why I really loved like the printed copies of the language arts packets because it
mhm.
was like, here's this thing, it's all collected. I don't have to figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was really great.
And so now
So
your son that was 5 on that trip is 12.
he's 12.
Okay. And so I'd love to hear what your thoughts are, just seeing the growth from 5 to 12 and what you've experienced in his educational journey.
Oh, for sure. So he was definitely a late sort of reader, a late learner. He he's always been, he's not slow, but he's methodical. So
Mhm.
he's very, I need to know what's going to happen, and I'm
Yeah,
going to take every step just as long as I needed to go.
that's awesome.
And I think so. You had put out Sight and Sound, like 100 lessons,
Mhm.
Sight and Sound. And I was like, oh, okay, we're going to do this because I bought the language arts packet for Form 1, thinking we're just going to do this. And it was way too much for
Yeah,
him. It
yeah,
was
yeah.
way too much. He couldn't,
Yeah, it's
it
for
was too much
third
pressure.
graders. Yeah.
It was too much pressure for him. And so we just started doing the reading program. And like, I love reading, and it's like an excellent, like I'm really good at it and I love it.
Mhm.
It was hard for me. It felt like, how can I teach this kid who is learning so much differently than me how to do
Mhm.
school and how to
Mhm.
read? And so that was a really great tool for us because I could see from the beginning how he couldn't write, he couldn't read, and just like it was so gentle and teaching
Mhm.
him how to be okay with small baby steps. I think
Mhm.
more it was teaching me to be okay with
Yeah.
smaller baby steps and take off the pressure from me onto
Mhm.
him to get things done.
Yeah.
And like his ability to narrate was like terrible. I was like,
Yeah.
what? Like in my mind, it was terrible.
Yeah. Right. Of
And
course. Yeah.
I'm like, did you not just listen to what I said? Like, I don't understand. And just stick it out.
Mm.
There were many times where I was like, it'd be easier just to stick a computer in front of
Mhm.
you and you watch a
Yep.
teacher.
Yep.
I'm like, there are so many online schools. My husband did online school growing up
Oh,
overseas,
okay.
and it was just a video that got popped in and he watched it of a class. So he
Mhm.
was like not a part of a class, but
Oh,
was a part
wow.
of a
Yeah,
class.
that's nowhere.
It's a video recording of a class that he's
Yeah.
not in.
Yeah.
And I
Wow.
was like, I could just do this. Like, you could
Yeah.
just have school and it'd be a lot easier. I
Mhm.
thought easier is relative.
Absolutely.
And it was just a beautiful transition for me to go from thinking this is the way it's supposed to be, this is the way it has to be,
Mm.
and to see how, even though it felt really slow to me, it was, I could see it building upon itself, building upon itself. So our
Mhm.
first year, we did cycle 1, we did term 1, and I was like a hot mess. I did not have myself organized. I'm like, we're not reading these books fast enough. I'm not checking off these things. But I think we just finished cycle 2. We're finishing cycle 2 for the second time.
Okay.
And I remember doing cycle 2. I had it a little bit more together. I was like, okay, I've
Yeah.
done this once.
Yeah. I
We're
got
going to
this.
move. I can do this the next year. Is better and better. I got better and better.
Mm.
And to see his growth now, he like gives me these beautiful narrations. He reads books that when I was his age I couldn't have read, and I was like an excellent reader.
Yeah.
And just to see how sticking it out, like just
Mm.
keeping going with everything, was life-giving to him and to me.
Mm.
Obviously we didn't have perfect
All
wasn't
your days
perfect
were
all
not
the way
perfect?
along.
What?
Not at all. And we had seasons of times where it was like, we read one book today, us. But
Mhm.
even now, there's even some days now, having done it for 8 years, that I'm like, we got one book read today. Let's go, guys. This is great.
But it's so reassuring, I think, for a lot of families to hear that. So I really appreciate you sharing that of it's the little seeds that you're planting through the years and
Right.
don't give up on the process. And some kids, it does take them longer. Having 5, I
Absolutely.
have some that took to it like this, and then I have some that struggled for months, and then it went poof, and they just grew. And that's
Right.
because children are persons and they're not machines that all develop at these certain little steps. And so
Absolutely.
I think it's so encouraging for parents to hear that. Now, how was it bringing in, and this is a question I get all the time, of bringing in more children and having children
Right.
in different forms?
So my children are almost exactly in August. So when one is starting a new form, the other is starting a new form.
Oh, that worked out well.
Right.
Yeah.
And so for my daughter, she started reading at 4. She
Oh,
just
wow.
started reading me a book, and I was like, what?
That
I
was
don't
me as a child.
understand.
Yep.
But I think she was hearing what we were doing
Mm,
because she's there, she's listening, even if she's playing and it seems like she's in her
yep.
own world. It just
100%.
happens because by doing homeschooling together and just doing life together, your children all hear each other and hear each other's things that are going
Absolutely.
on. And so we started her earlier because she started yelling out the answers to math questions. And I was like, you have to stop. Your brother
Yeah.
has to be given a chance to answer. He's so methodical. And she's just, I
Yep.
know it.
That's so funny. Isn't it amazing how different they are?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so for her, it's been a lot different because she's accelerated. And so that was difficult as well
Yeah.
because she would just finish the work really quickly and be like, what's
Mhm.
next?
Yeah.
And then finish a whole entire book. And I'm like, whoa, sweetie, you're supposed to like
Yeah.
go
Just
down
read one
one reading
chapter.
and one
Yep.
chapter. She's that's not enough. And I'm like, okay, it is. And I really loved that with A Gentle Feast. There were multiple forms that I could look at once. I could move her up in certain things, but there were other things that she needed to stay back in.
Mm-hmm.
And while my son seemed to fit like the methodical, you're in form 1, cycle 2, form 1, the
Yeah.
third way, like the third time around, he would be very on point for everything.
Okay.
Hers was a lot more, I have to figure out which thing is good for you.
Yeah.
And like it felt a little bit hard at first, to be honest. I was like, how can I read all of this, like all these books to you and still help my son who needs more assistance? You need less, but you're still too young to do it on your own. And it took a little bit of time to figure it out, but you can combine stories. Like it's the history cycle. So you're all reading stories together. And sometimes when I'd read a cycle 1 or like one of the form 1 books, my son would listen to it. And so then when it was time for him to do his independent reading, he would already have a little bit of context
Yep.
and it would help him understand his text more and give better narrations, give better understanding to the
Yeah.
whole story. And so now we're at a point where each of them will come to me and they're like, wait, I want to hear his narration because they
Mm.
like to hear each other tell
Oh, I love
the
that.
narrations of their stories.
That's so beautiful.
And because you're in the same history cycle together,
Mhm.
you get to share your info with each other. I don't know.
That's
They're
great. That's what you
delightful.
want,
I
right?
love
You
them,
want
right?
a family culture where people want to have conversations about big ideas. That's beautiful. I love that so
Right.
much. And
It's
that they
only just
encourage each other.
been,
It's not a battle like my narration's better than your narration.
oh, they could get like that maybe, but and it's only just been in the last like month and a half that started to happen. And I'm like, oh, I see where Charlotte Mason says laying down the rails. It's not even just like it's all the things that you're doing
Yep.
consistently that create a habit, even if you're not necessarily thinking, I'm going to work on this particular habit.
It
It
happens. Yeah.
it happens over time. And I can see now not the light at the end of the tunnel necessarily, because
Yeah.
we still have struggles, but
And you will. Yeah.
yeah,
Because that's life.
absolutely. Because we're all human. I have struggles,
You get it
but
all figured out, let me know.
all right, I'll do that.
Okay. I would love
Um,
to hear too, because the way that Charlotte Mason has her history set up, and this is a question I get a lot, like from new people. What are we doing? What are the cycles? And there's these 4 different time periods, and then you're going back through them. So you now have gone back through them twice.
mhm.
What have you learned from that experience, or what do you think of the benefit of that, or what has that experience been like for you guys? Because I think sometimes it's really hard for people to wrap their mind around what that looks like.
Absolutely. So I think at first I was a little bit panicky because I was like, what if we miss something? I don't remember that much about history, or I didn't learn any about this geography. And the first time through, I felt like I was just like, okay, we're going to do these things. We're going to do this. We're going to do this. Try it out. And
Mhm.
now having gone through a second time, I feel like, let me see how I can word it. It's peaceful. because so I'm reading the same, so my daughter's reading some of the same text as
Okay.
my son did
Yeah.
because she'll be doing Form 1 for some of the ones that he did Form 1. And it's, I guess I'm having a hard time describing it, but they, sorry, ask your question again. I like lost my
No, just what it was like going through the different cycles like multiple times. What benefits did you see from that? Or how would you like how has that been for your family to go through things a second? And I think it's hard for people to see too that like when you're going back through a cycle a second time, like your kids aren't the same ages. So you're like you said, like your
Okay,
son
yeah,
was Form 1 the first time you
right,
went through it, but now he's older, so he's reading different books. It's not the
right,
same books when
right,
they go back
right,
through it at an older age. But now your daughter's reading those Form 1 books that he once had read because that's the level that she's at. So
right.
it's you're going back through it, but you're not doing the same material with the same kids.
So we aren't doing the same material. Okay, so yes, okay, back on that.
No, you're
um,
good. I can edit too.
great. She, so it's been really nice going back through it again because my son can like talk to my daughter and say, that's a really good book. You're going to
Yeah.
that one.
Yeah.
And yeah, and for me, it's nice because the first time around, I felt like I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
Like, even though we do know what we're doing, we just feel like we don't know
Of
what we're
course.
doing. And that experience has been really nice to go through the cycles again. I feel like I really like the shorter history cycles. So only having four has been really helpful for me to go back through because I don't know, there it's like you get a little glimpse at the beginning, like in Form 1, and then Form 2, I feel like you get a little bit more of an in-depth look at some of the things. And my son has even asked, I know that these things are happening during this time period. Why aren't we reading a book about
Mhm.
this specific thing? Because he has a little bit
Because he
broader
remembers.
context.
That's great.
There's a bigger worldview here. There's more things
Mhm.
happening. And I'm like, it's okay. We continue to grow in our minds and our studies until we die. You can go back, like we can go back and we're going to read this cycle again. And there's going to be a little bit more about it. And it doesn't have to be, it's not limiting, it's
Mhm.
expansive. And I don't
No, I think that's really great. No, that I love what you just said about it being because I feel like we can feel like this pressure, like we have to cover every possible name and date and event in
know. Right,
history during that happened in the 1700s, or they're never going to hear it ever again. And it's no, because you're going to do this time period again, and you're planting seeds that the next time through, like you said, you're going to go deeper into those concepts and education is the science of relations. They'll make connections between the things they like your son. Wait, 4 years ago, this was also happening. Yeah. And like the way that they're able to
right,
make connections is really beautiful that you wouldn't see if you only studied this one time and then you moved on. Or you try to like
right.
cram in a bunch of all of modern history in 1 year and then you're moving on to like ancient times and your kids are like, what? So
And another
yeah.
thing that I really like is that you start out just studying like American history. Of course, there's lots of things happening in the world. And that's been a really great thing for me and for my son because it's like you're just adding a little bit at a time each time you go into
Mm-hmm.
a new form. Like you're getting a broader sense of things. So, like moving from Form 1 to Form 2 and doing the cycles again in a new form is really exciting, honestly, because you get to add things like citizenship or British
Mm-hmm.
history or
Yeah.
ancient history. And I really love how it's broken down between British and American history, but then you get to see the connections of the things happening at the same time. I remember when we first went through each of the cycles, I was like, wow, I don't remember that. I didn't know, or I don't remember that Leonardo da Vinci was alive at the same time as historian, like certain
Yeah. Right.
historians are like historic events happening in the world, like in a
Yeah.
discovery of the Americas.
Yes.
And like in
We
your mind,
didn't learn
you know,
it
it's
together.
not
Right.
compartmentalized. And I
Yep.
really love how each time you go through the cycle, you, it's like a tree that continues to
Mhm.
blossom and grow. And it's not like the branches down low are gone, they're just thicker and fuller and are supporting the new
I love
ideas
that
above.
picture. Yeah. That's really good.
And it's like you get to have new springs of information, but they're all laid on the foundation of what's come before.
Yeah.
And I don't think if you didn't go through the cycles multiple times, you could fully get the picture. At
Mm.
least for me, I'm really going through things multiple times is great for me. I also think it's one of the ways in which God teaches me things. It's, oh, let's circle back. Come on, let's
Absolutely.
circle back. Remember,
100%. And
right?
adding on layers. Yep. That's how we learn.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
so,
That's a great way to describe that.
yeah.
And so you have joined the membership. I'm so excited. So
Yeah.
I'm curious, as someone who's been using a Gentle Feast for a long time, what inspired you to give the membership a try?
That's a really good question because when it first came out, I was like, how is this going to be beneficial to me? How is this going
Mhm.
to be different?
Yeah.
I already own all the cycles. Like I've got my system, my way of presenting the information to the kids, and got my way of doing things.
Yes, I like
Right.
it's good. It's a good feeling, isn't it?
Right. But then I was like, oh, how's it going to be different? So, first of all, like having gone through a couple of the cycles multiple times, I was like, maybe I need something new. Maybe it could be a little bit different. And like I was saying earlier, I'm starting to look at where do I need to tweak some of the certain books and how do things need to be different? And one of the things that you had mentioned in the one of the calls, I think, was that, the membership is like a living, active thing, like Charlotte Mason's
Yeah.
like book list that she would send out to the parents. And it's not just here's a product, which is a really great thing, but here's more of a living relationship with
Yeah.
the changing needs of a static situation.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, that's exciting. Maybe I can look at these new books and see how that might inform something we've already done
Mm.
and how the changes might be helpful. For me, especially having moved away from a really strong Charlotte Mason community, is
Mm.
I feel pretty isolated. We live in a very rural community
Okay.
where driving to a friend's house is like a 40-minute drive. So it's like community is a harder thing. And so that aspect has been really exciting. Just being able to focus in on the specifics of being in a community that isn't online, isn't like Facebook or social media, which is so distracting to me. I'm like, oh, what's that video? Or
Yeah.
how 15 minutes went by? What happened?
Yeah. Do you
Um,
have the app? Or are you getting the on the community on the
I
desktop?
am getting on the app, so
Isn't it
I think
awesome? I was like,
oh
I
cool.
only got on the app like a week or so ago, and I'm like, this is amazing. I just love looking at all the pictures of people and connecting everybody.
The app has been really great because there's certain features that are on the app that aren't on the computer thing,
Right.
like checking off when you've looked at something instead of having to scroll through everything all the time.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
I've loved that. Um, but in addition to some of the book changes or like the living aspect of it, it's nice having looked at the app. It's so great that you can go on, even as a parent who's done it for so long, to click on a lesson and it just be like, here's a little bit of scaffolding for you. You don't have to pre-read every single thing, which I have been done
I
pre-reading of
don't
every
do
single
that.
thing, but I
So
do a lot of pre-reading, right? Like, what's this? I need to have some sense of you
yeah.
narrating back to me, especially as your kids start to read their own text. It's like, wait, what? And so I really like that aspect a lot. And I like the feature where I can mark off as I go along lessons that we've done.
Yeah.
And like I created for myself my own like online checklist thing, but it's limited because it's a spreadsheet. And having everything broken down by subject is really exciting as well because I even said to my husband, like, not 2 weeks before you announced, I wish I could look at everything
By
by
subject.
subject. I'm like sitting on my
Good minds think alike,
I
Kara.
know. I was like, how can I finagle this spreadsheet to give me information that I want? And then you're
Yeah.
like, here it is. Here you go. I've been working on it. Here's this wonderful gift. And I was like, okay, thank you.
Well, it's funny. I think a lot of us have tweaked it to make it by subject for a long time.
Right.
And so I was like, why am I not just offering this? Because yeah, I've always just planned by subject, and then we've always just done the next thing that's in that subject. It's the next thing we do. And then I'm not
Right.
stressed out about weeks and what kid is at what day and what week, and that gives me a headache. So it's okay. We're geography. What's next?
And at first, I was a little bit like, oh, you're only signing up for the membership of whatever cycle you're in. That feels limiting. But having already experienced it a little bit online with what I've been doing, I'm like, oh, this makes sense because it can help you narrow your focus. You're not flicking back from one thing to another and you're like, did I say that in this cycle, or
Yeah.
what information have I said and where did I post that and
Mm,
what is happening here? It's so funneled in for you that
mm.
you can just go on. It's super easy and it's really beautiful.
You know me, that's really important.
I know, but it's like not a lot of, so the website that I was using to organize my information is black and white. It's boring. And I would try to put pictures in there. And I don't think you should minimize how important it is to have beautiful things in your life too.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I
That's one of
Yeah.
my goals is if I have to look at a homeschool curriculum, it better look nice.
Right. It should. And it shouldn't just be primary colors. It should be exciting and fun.
And pink, right?
Pink, right? Yes. My son loves pink. My little son, my 2-year-old,
Awesome.
he's like, pink.
They'll see a lot of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I was, just today I was filming something I was looking at on the Kajabi app. So you can access all the plans on desktop, but being able to, it doesn't look as pretty on the Kajabi app, but
That's
just being
right.
able to go, okay, here's what we're doing today and be like, okay,
Right.
this page, you're reading this, you're reading this. I'm like, it's in my hand. It's not like I have all these like stacks of books and I'm like, where's the lesson about the thing with the link to the, I'm like, oh, here we
Right.
go. I'm like, just I felt immediately like
Right.
so much calm because like the amount of time and energy, I didn't realize how much I was expending looking here for this and here for this. Even though I
Absolutely.
tried to keep it very simple, it was still
Oh,
lots of
for
different
sure.
places for
Well,
things.
or it's like you didn't actually get the link to the spot that you wanted. And then you're like, wait a second, I know there's one.
Yeah.
And it's already all right there on the app. And I'm really excited for using it next school year
Yeah.
because being able to say, hey, here, so for us, we still travel quite a lot.
Okay.
And we have family who lives overseas. So it's not just small travel in the
Yeah.
States, it's also like international travel.
Wow.
And being able to have the app and pull up a resource right there and just hand my phone to a kid next to me, like on an airplane or in the car, and have it all be there and not have to go looking through papers and
Mm-hmm.
not having to look through all the apps or scroll through the spreadsheet and be like, I know it's right here somewhere.
Yeah, or go
It's
on
really
YouTube and like the
exciting. I
YouTube
think that
videos are
it'll,
right there. So now you don't
oh
have to worry
yeah.
about your kid going and seeing whatever on YouTube either. Yeah.
And I think that it's going to be extremely freeing for us to be able to move around not only our own property,
Mm.
but like to travel.
Yeah.
And if I had this when we first started traveling, I would have just, I don't know, it would have been like, this is so great.
Yeah.
It's great now, but I think that
Yeah.
it's
Back when you were on
exciting.
the road all the time, for sure. Yeah.
And it's exciting. Like it
Yeah.
brings, I'm always excited about homeschool and like doing it the same way that we've always have is fine. But this, I don't know, it's reinvigorated
Mm.
my passion for doing
Oh, so good.
homeschooling. And I was never going to stop doing it. And I love
Yeah.
it. But it's here's the cupcake for your party that you're already having. Like, I don't
Yes.
like the sprinkles on a donut. Like a
I
donuts are
love it.
delicious, but
I am
here's more
definitely a big fan
sprinkles.
of sprinkles on donuts.
Yeah,
They should all have sprinkles.
exactly. It's like you could get a dipped cone. You could have your ice cream cone, but here, let's dip it in something. And
Ooh,
it's like
yes.
extra delicious. So
I love that. I'm going to steal that
yeah,
description.
there
Yes.
you go.
This is a
You
gentle
should.
feast with sprinkles. I love it.
It's like but I also think that it's going to be really great for people who have never used a gentle feast before
Mm-hmm.
because it presents it in such a way that's like a friend walking alongside of you, being able to help you be confident in who you are. Like, you know how to like, you can do this, but here's a way to do it that you can feel loved and supported. And it's not even just in that community, but just in the way that it's presented
Oh,
to
thank you. That
us.
really that
Yeah.
that speaks a lot to me because that really was my goal of wanting to really walk hand in hand with people as they got started because I love this approach so much and I love talking about it and I love helping families with it. But so often people are like, what? This is way too much. I don't even know how to get started with this. It sounds really nice and lovely, but like my brain is used to textbooks and workbooks and everybody being at different grade levels, and I can't even wrap my brain around what you're talking about. And so it's like, how can I make this as easy as possible for people who want to like just even dip your toes? Just come try.
And I love the way that you're doing it. It's not like you have to buy a membership for a whole year. It's try it out for a month and just play around with all the features, look at all the videos. I love that you have all these resources and you've been like compiling all these videos and that you can just go and look at and read or listen to in a really easy way that is accessible without having to like scroll through the website or did I do this? Like it's just all here in one place for your delight.
Yes, with sprinkles. Thank you so
Yeah,
much for taking the time to talk to everyone. I really appreciate it.
yeah, for sure.
Hi, everyone. I am chatting with the adorable Alexis today to hear about her experience with the Gentle Feast. So, thank you for taking the time to chat with me. Alexis, can you just give a little bit about your kids, your ages, and how you got started with the Gentle Feast?
Yeah, so I have four kiddos, one on the way. My oldest is 12, and then my boy after him is almost 9, and then my daughter's 6, and then I have a 2-year-old. And this is our 5th year using a gentle feast.
That's amazing. I'm so honored. So, how did you even come to find it? Do you remember?
Yes, I do. And it honestly was a God thing because I was pulling my oldest, who was in public school at the time, I was pulling him out. And a friend of mine was also considering homeschooling. And so I went to her with so many questions. And she mentioned a gentle feast. And I was like, what is that? So first she sent me like a video. I'm pretty sure it was Sonia Schaefer, like the 5 flavors of homeschooling. And she was like, look at this first, because there's different styles of homeschooling. And I didn't know there were different styles of
Yeah.
homeschooling. Like I was in public school. All I thought was school. Like I had no idea there were different styles of homeschooling. So I watched those videos and I was really drawn by the Charlotte Mason approach. And I shared it with my husband, like we talked about it and stuff. And so when she told me a Gentle Feast is a Charlotte Mason based curriculum, I was like, okay. So at first I was like, I'll give it the first year. Like I'll give it the first year. I have a friend that's also using this. And I started diving into Charlotte Mason's volumes. And that year, I was shocked with just like how much my son grew that year that I was like, okay, we're going again. So we did year 2. And I just have never turned back because of how beautiful, just everything that I have so much to say about Gentle Feast. I feel like anytime someone talks to me about it, I'm like, I could go on and on. Just from like year 1 to now, this is our first year cycling back through to cycle 1. And it's just been such a blessing. Like it's been such a blessing. So how I found it was through a friend and I've never turned back. And I believe there has to be great curriculums out there. Like I know there are,
Oh, absolutely.
but I have not felt a need to change what we've been doing. And I've seen the feast and I'm like, this is a plethora of things my kids are getting and I'm seeing it. And I love it and they love it. So it's working.
That's wonderful. I'm so happy to hear that. I'm curious about your experience pulling a kid from school because I get asked that a lot because it is so different than a traditional school approach. How did you all navigate that?
The first year was rocky because I was trying to replicate school at home the very first year. I thought they had to sit down all day and do school. Also, I remember thinking like we need spirals, we need binders of all the things for their math and their language. Like I thought everything needed like public school. So the first year was very rocky. I remember our first time like narrating too. He had no idea what he was doing, and I didn't know if we were doing it right, and like we just were figuring it out together. It I would say my second year is when, after reading like Charlotte Mason's first volumes, understanding more of her philosophy really helped me. And then just my son going from that year to the next year, seeing, okay, this is going to look different than public school. And that's the whole point. That's okay.
Yeah.
And we just transitioned together. I don't feel like it took very long, but the first year it was definitely a little rocky because I I just only knew what I knew from public school. So I just tried to make everything like public school.
I think
And
that's so
that's
great for people to
at
hear
home is
because
not happening.
I think we
It's a
could think
mess.
like I have to get it perfect on day one of homeschooling,
Yeah.
and I don't think any homeschooler ever has ever done that. So it can create really unrealistic expectations. And then just to go, yeah, it's probably going to be a little rocky, but I love what you said about we're journeying on this together. So you're growing at the same time your child's learning. And I love that you dive right into her volumes. That's amazing. And was like, I'm going to figure this out for myself. And then we're going to
Yeah.
figure this out together. That's just such a beautiful way to approach it. So I think that's really good for people to hear. And then just to, like you said, go, okay, where is this coming from? Is this because this is what I feel like I'm supposed to do, what I should do because it's my experience, or am I willing to try something a little different? So that's really cool. So then you
Yeah.
brought in other kids as well. So people
Yeah.
always ask about that. So what was like the transition of adding a younger child into the mix?
Yeah. So it's actually been really neat because the first year, so I only had a Form 1 student, and then I'm pretty sure my little ones were like preschool aged, but they did like nature study with us. But what's really cool was bringing in, this is my 9-year-old second year, he's almost 9, doing Form 1, and my oldest now is in Form 2, and he blew me away with narrating because he's always seen his older brother do
Yeah,
narration. And I didn't ever, that never even crossed my mind like years ago. Like he was just always in the room, like playing Legos on the ground, like just listening.
yeah. You were
And
actually listening this whole time?
yeah, but I didn't know that. And so I just thought he was playing. And so his first year, last year, doing Form 1, he blew me away, like with narration, to where I had to get coffee and get settled and sit because he will talk my ear off. And he is still the same. And I was just like, it's so amazing because I watched, I'm not like the first time we were doing it, I'm like, that was an amazing narration, like amazing. But he had seen his brother do it for so long, which was different with my oldest,
Yeah,
his
right.
experience,
Yeah.
because he was like, what are we doing here? This is so different. I don't even know what I'm supposed to do. So that's been really sweet, like seeing that they do listen. Like the little ones, even though they're not participating in what we're doing necessarily, like they're around, they're listening. And they're part of our morning time and everything. But it's been really sweet to see him grow. This is his second year in Form 1, and seeing him grow just because he's been around it for so long. Like he's heard all the narrating, and so that's been really cool. I would say it wasn't hard bringing him into it, or even my daughter, who this is her first year in Form 1, because it's like they've just been used to that for the last 5 years. They've just seen what we do,
Yeah.
and then they just picked up on it, which I thought was really cool because I didn't know that they were ever paying attention.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so I have to ask you
Yeah.
a follow-up question because this is another thing I get asked out about a lot. When you have a kid that goes up to Form 2, like to fourth grade, everybody's like, what do I do now? Now I have a kid in Form 2 and a kid that's still in Form 1, and it's Panicville, or it's okay, breathe. This is supposed to happen. It doesn't have to happen all at once or every subject. You can do this gradually. But like, how did you navigate the whole multiple form thing?
And everybody probably handles it differently. But for me, I feel like we I got just so used to the way things were with just one kid for so long doing Form 1 that by the time it was time to bring in the other ones, I felt confident and comfortable. And also, I was like, a lot of it's reading aloud, like in Form 1 to them, like their history, their natural history books. So it's like I would bring those books with us, and I would just take it easy on myself. Do our language arts, do our math, doing our morning time, and then the books I knew that we needed to do, like for American history or natural history, like I just made it very like peaceful. We'll read that book while I'm making lunch. Or I didn't make it like this huge wait. Okay, I got this form two and this, how are we going to get it all done? I
Right.
just knew it would be okay because I watched it with my oldest and how it just worked. Like it just fell into place. And I don't know, that's my experience with it.
No, I think that's great. That's I like that you use the word gentle. That's how it should feel. It shouldn't feel so forced and pressured. Is he able to do,
Yeah.
are there certain subjects he's now doing independently, and has that made things easier? Or are you reading to
Yeah.
both forms?
So this is his first year in Form 2, and he's always been my one that's very like eager to learn, always like taking initiative. So that wasn't really hard for us to make this like transition. 'Cause I'm here to help, but he has his own list of everything he needs to do that week. And I'm there close by for questions and everything, but he has his list and he does his stuff and he does it independently. But this is our first year because he's sixth grade now.
Yeah.
So it's our first year him doing that, and it's worked really well.
That's
And
great. And I
that,
love that you took the time. Like that's why I say it's gradual. It's not like
yeah,
the first day of fourth grade, they're doing everything by themselves.
no. I started knowing when he was ready. I would say like last year I could tell like fifth grade. I was like, okay, he's ready for me to start slowly giving him his work independently. And then yeah, and I have two in Form 1, so a first grader and a second grader, so I combine all of our things.
Oh yeah.
So I'm basically doing school with those two while he's doing independent lessons next to us, and I'm there if he has any questions. So that's been really nice, and
Do you
that's how
combine
we,
anything other than morning time?
like, for all of us, science, family science. Yeah. But other than that, it's really sweet though, because now that we cycled back through, my oldest remembers the stories that I'm reading in cycle one
Yeah.
to my other two. And he will stop what he's doing and like he'll sit there and want to listen to the stories because he remembers. And I'm like, that's so cool. He just wants to be a part of it. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Even like my senior would come downstairs and I'd be reading some book, but she'd be, I remember that. It's
Yeah.
like because it's what you want. It's like a friend. It's oh, that story. That felt really good. I want to hear that again.
Yes.
Which is great. But I love that you like gave him time and that you were seeing like when your child was ready. Again, we have to get out of the public school mindset of they're in this grade, so now they're in this form. That's not how this works. Yeah, let them develop at
Yeah.
their own time. Yeah. So how have you seen it bring your family together? How has it changed your family dynamics?
Oh man, it's changed us, but I would say it's changed me the most. There's just so much beauty in our days now that I never knew before was missing until years later of like just being exposed to all the things we're exposed to, like the beautiful, rich poetry and just the music and the art. Like I would say there's just been so much transformation within me that's allowed my kids to see. I genuinely enjoy our beauty time. Like I am like on fire to sit down and because it fills me up. And my husband has also seen these pieces of music that we'll be listening to and the art and like how excited my kids are to show him. And it's been so rich and so sweet. I don't know.
Beautiful. Yeah. No, I
Yeah.
love that. I love that it changes us. I really feel like it redeemed my education. Not that it's a
Yeah.
bad one, but it just wasn't life-giving.
At all. Same for me. And I think that it's like you don't know what you don't know, right? Like
Mhm.
I only knew what I knew from public school, traditional school. And so looking back, that's why I always say I feel so blessed that I found a gentle feast because it has grown me, but also like I am still learning, but I've learned so much alongside my kids that I'm like, I'll get excited. I'm like, I didn't even know that this composer existed. I'm always learning and growing, and that's what I love is I'm
Yeah.
just learning alongside them.
I'm sure your kids definitely pick up on your excitement. That's really neat.
I can't help myself. I get too excited.
That's the way it should be. It should be exciting. It should feel like wonder and curiosity every day. I love that so much. So you recently joined the membership. I'm curious, what led you to join that since you already own all four cycles?
Yeah. One thing I felt like I was longing for years ago was community.
Yeah.
It's already so hard to find like Charlotte Mason moms, like in my area, like in Dallas. I only know like a few groups. And so I know you can look like on Facebook and stuff, but I really just wanted the community aspect of it. And so when I first saw that you were coming out with that, I was like, this is so awesome. I feel like that was the piece of the puzzle that I was missing. And so that's why I joined, was really for the community aspect of it.
Okay. Yeah. No, that's
And
great.
kind of see like what you were doing in it too. I was like, I want to see what she's created and like what could help me. Maybe there's something that I could do differently than what I've been doing.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd love to hear what are your initial thoughts.
I love it. I think that it's super easy to navigate. I think that it makes it really easy to navigate. I still am very like weird. I love paper, so I feel like
Not weird.
I,
That's like everyone's effect. I like paper
you
too.
know,
Trust me.
like I couldn't see myself just using it and not having anything in front of me. Like I think it's great. I think what you did was great. When I look at it, I'm like, this is amazing. I think I've bragged about it to my husband like so many times. I'm like, she has created this amazing platform. Like you've got to see this.
Now, do you use the app or do you use it on a computer?
I do both. I like the Kajabi app, but I also have used it on my laptop. I just both. But I do like that you can see it differently on like a computer as opposed to the
Prettier.
phone. Yeah, it's prettier. I feel like it's just easier to navigate than just click here.
Yeah. No. You know me, and pretty is important to me.
But it's nice that you have that as an option because if you're on the go, like I've thought about that. I'm like, I'm always on the go, so I have my phone. I can just go straight to the app and get what I need. So that's nice.
Yeah. And no, I really wanted it to be like a hybrid of an easy portal to find all your links, to get extra resources, to have like more tools and guidance for the lessons, but then also make it so it's not so much so that you're still having paper books if you want, and you can have a paper planner if you want, and you can see stuff and hold it. And it's not a kid sitting on a screen. I would never, ever in a million years want that. So it's really like for the parents. I'm glad you found it easy to use. So do you have any
Yeah.
closing words for anyone who might be considering starting a Gentle Feast?
Oh, yeah. Anyone starting a gentle feast, I would say if you want your child to have a feast, this is it. I can't say enough great things about the curriculum in general, but it's like there's nothing that I believe it's missing. And after 5 years of using a gentle feast, it's I've seen the growth in my children, and I would say you definitely need to trust the process because like in the beginning for me, you don't, especially if you're coming from public school, you just have to trust like the philosophy, trust that like narrating and the dictation, like just trust it all, and then you'll see the fruit later on. That would be like my advice, my piece
No,
of
that's
wisdom.
great advice because yeah, it's so different. It can be like, are we doing enough? Are they actually
Yeah,
learning
and
anything?
those were my thoughts the first years. Like I feel like we weren't doing enough. We were, but I felt like I need spirals, I need binders, I need
Yeah.
things.
Any
So
proof?
that
Where's the proof?
yes. And then after reading like Charlotte Mason's first volume, it was like, okay, I started understanding a little bit more. And then second year I was understanding more. And then it's just as it kept going, I'm like, okay, this really is a different style of education than your traditional. And if you're wanting traditional, I'm sure there's great curriculums out there for, that. But I would just say trust the process, honestly, and that you'll see the fruit and
Um,
you'll see the
okay.
beauty.
I said that was the last question, but I thought of another one. Do you mind? Since you had a baby who's now 2 and you have another one on the way, how did you navigate this style of learning a gentle feast with a newborn?
Honestly, I kept to the short lessons and I made it more relaxed. If we do school out on the couch or in my bedroom while I'm nursing the baby, that's what we're doing. I just let it be relaxed and kept lessons short like I always do. But if something didn't get done, it'll get done the next day. I just gave myself a lot of grace, honestly. And I know with having a new one on the way at the beginning of the school year in September,
Okay.
it's going to be the same
Yeah.
with a toddler. So I'm already like, okay, I don't ever feel like kids are behind. Yeah, we have grades. I say what grades they're in. But in reality, I'm like, it's our pace. Every family's different. Our children are different. Their needs are different. So if I need to slow down in the season because I have a new baby, like that's okay. They're still learning if I take them down the street to go look at bugs. Like they're still learning. So I just think that giving yourself a lot of grace and knowing that learning is all everywhere, not just sitting down doing language arts. So that's just what's helped me.
Oh, absolutely. That's wonderful. I think too, like you just feel so different when you just take the pressure off.
Yeah,
Like
just
you and
take
your
the pressure
kids
off.
will learn actually more when there's the pressure's taken off and you can just
For sure.
enjoy it, but also enjoy the season because those little babies don't stay little for very long.
And I feel like that helped me a lot this last time because my oldest is 12 and seeing him with the newborn was like, God, time goes so fast. Like I just saw it like right in front of my eyes to where I'm like, man, like it's going to be okay. Like it's going to be okay if in this season we do a lot more reading aloud and just it doesn't look like we're doing our schedule like normal because it's like they are only little for so long. And so I know people say that all the time, but it's just so true.
Yeah, it really
It's
is.
going to be okay. No,
Yeah, I
they're
love
not
that.
going to get behind.
Thank
Like,
you for answering my bonus question because I feel like
yeah.
you're in it and that's something people a lot and it's something to consider. Is the homeschool curriculum or style of learning I'm going to do, is it going to fit in our lifestyle? And is it going to
Yeah.
fit with the season of life that we're in? And so some are easier than others when you have newborns
Right.
to make adjustments and all the and you want to sleep and all the stuff.
Well, and I feel like a gentle feast is very that was the one thing that, aside my friend telling me about it and me doing my own research, I loved that it was family style learning, like for multiple ages. And that's what sold me because I'm like, I have multiple kids and I'm going to have more. And so what does this look like? And I've just seen over the years the freedom that we have. It's just such a gentle approach, but it's I feel like people get gentle confused because I had a friend say, "Was that easy?" I was like, "That's not even the same thing as easy." But
Yeah.
I can see what she meant, and I'm like, "No, it's just so gentle." And like I've experienced that with all the different changes and seasons that we've gone through. So that's been really sweet.
No, I'm glad you brought that up. I get that all the time too. I'm like, no,
You,
why do we equate the word gentle with easy? Or why do we think learning has to be hard? Like
yeah.
gentle in the dictionary, they're not a synonym for each other.
No, I know.
Gentle
But
means not
I
like forced and not pressure and not,
pressure.
yeah, feeling like you're suffocating. Like that to me, that's what I think of when I like gentle, but
Right.
it's I think of like how Jesus, like it was so gentle sometimes in telling stories and being patient with the disciples and like that kind of learning. It's this restful learning, not stress.
I love that restful learning. Yeah, it's not stressful. That's really what it is. It's not stressful. It's this peaceful, restful learning, but you're still learning. You're just not under pressure while you're learning.
It's
Different.
still learning.
You're
It's
still
just,
learning. It's different.
yes. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk. I think this will be so helpful for people.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me.
Hey guys, I'm here today with Michaela Dice, and we are just chit-chatting with some families so you can hear about their experience with a gentle feast. So thanks for being willing to chat.
Yes, of course. I'm so excited.
Yeah, so you were just telling me before we hopped on that you have a sitter today who's doing school with your kids.
Yes.
That's amazing.
One of the best things that I have found about a gentle feast is how it gives me the ability to break it down in ways that if I need to leave the house with a sitter, she can get their work done with them. And it is
Yeah.
such a huge weight off my shoulders.
Yeah, that's amazing to have someone to be able to step in and follow plans and yeah. So can you just talk a little bit about how you got started, maybe homeschooling or started using a gentle feast?
Of course. So we started homeschooling just out of the desire to be able to watch my kids learn and be part of that process. And we started with my daughter, who was in kindergarten at the time, and we eventually pulled the boys from public school during that same year because they were just struggling so much with being bullied and they weren't actually retaining information in school. Like they'd come home and they would say, I have no idea. And they would have passed the test, but they
Right,
couldn't
right.
actually relay any information to me.
Like,
And I
what are
was
we doing
like,
here? Yeah.
yeah, this doesn't feel like this is what this is supposed to be like. So we started having conversations, and actually, I honestly wrestled with the Lord for 5 months about even pulling them. My husband and I talked about it and we prayed about it, and we just felt like it was the time. And we started with a gentle feast because we have kids. Right now we have technically a first grader, a fifth grader, and a seventh grader. And so I was very specifically looking for curriculum that we could use all together because I don't have an entire day to sit and do lessons with this one and then lessons with this one and lessons. They all three have ADHD. So I need them to all be doing school at the same time, or it's literally going to take days to get one more day's worth of schoolwork done. So the appeal for a gentle feast for me was that I can so easily combine things. I have a form one, and sometimes we do school for 30 minutes, and I don't ever feel like, oh my gosh, we're so behind, because it's so easy to pull things back together. And on days where we have more time, I can get more stuff done. And then my boys are form two and form three, and I just combine them for history and some literature stuff. Like, we just do the things together so that we get them done. And we start our school day usually at 9:30, and everybody's done with all of their things other than their narrations, which we usually do at lunch, by 11 or 11:30.
That's awesome. Yeah. So the nice
It's
thing is
been
it has that kind of flexibility where you're seeing all the different forms. You're not like having to buy one grade and then another grade. And
yes.
yeah, I get what you're saying. And I think there's a lot of people too that are in that same boat of having lots of kids and lots of different ages. And that's how it was when I first started homeschooling. And this kid was doing this whole 7 workbooks and textbooks on their own. And this kid was like, what are we doing? I'm homeschooling so like we can all be together. So how has that kind of changed y'all's relationship, just using this kind of where you can combine some things for different kids in different forms?
It's been really fun to watch them come alive as the boys are learning the same things since we've combined that form for history. They will start, like, one will start telling me narration, and they both pick up such different things from stories that, like, they'll tell me at the same time, and they'll go back and forth, and they're like, yeah, and then this, and just like watching them build on each other like that has been super cool to watch because, like, they're helping each other understand different aspects that maybe their personality wouldn't pick up.
Absolutely.
And it's feeding their love of learning. And by feeding their love of learning, I'm getting to watch them feed their love for each other
Oh, sweet.
because they're learning the same thing at the same time. It's been really sweet. Obviously, we have struggles. Like, there are days where it's pull my hair out, but it's not because of anything other than motherhood.
Yes, yeah. I don't know if that just magically goes away.
I mean, but it's been really cool to watch them fall in love with learning in a way that sparks each other.
So you mentioned like when they were in school, you felt like they were like, yeah, I took this test, I passed, but I'm not retaining this. Have you seen a change in terms of like their retention and what they're getting out of the learning?
Oh, 100%. The way that they play, like, they're playing the things out,
I love
they're
it.
acting them out, or they'll tell me, one of my sons, we do a co-op where they're teaching different classes, like electives. He voluntarily picked a war class because he was so interested in those things because of what
Yeah.
he's learning. It's a completely different time period,
Okay.
but just the
Yeah.
fact that he has loved learning about wars, he was like, I want to learn more about this. He's checking out nonfiction books about wars. He's 11,
That's
and
awesome.
thick adult style books about wars because he has been so interested in reading, like, Our
Right.
Island Story
Yeah.
and the ways that all of these different things play out. He is retaining it, and like, my husband comes home and he's like, Dad, did you know this about King? Did you know that this person was beheaded because of this? And watching it
Sounds
all
like my
bubble
son.
out of him, like, it's just like naturally bubbling out of him because he enjoys it so much.
That's so cool. I love that so much. So that's what we want,
Yeah,
right? We don't want to drag it out. What did you learn today? Nothing. Like we want them to
exactly.
love it so much that they want to follow those rabbit trails and their passions and all that. So you were new to a gentle feast. So a lot of people are like, this is overwhelming. This is a very different approach than how I was educated. What advice would you give to someone who's like completely new to Charlotte Mason and Gentle Feast?
Honestly, start small. Like, just do it in little chunks. For us, we started with morning time and just incorporated it into our mornings during the summer before we actually started. And that way we started building some rhythm into our day.
I love that.
And then we started with language arts and history. And I would give them a book to read from the literature list.
Yeah.
And then we eventually just started building and adding more things in. And there are some weeks where we only get to 3 or 4 things because we live busy lives and I have a million kids. And it's okay to just bite it off in little pieces as you get started and figure out how it works into your day and create rhythms, not structured schedule.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. Was there anything else you wanted to share?
Go for it. Like A Gentle Feast has been such a beautiful addition to our family. Watching my kids study art and hearing them and watching them want to draw more and just watching things come out of them that they didn't have the freedom to express in public school
Yeah.
has been the biggest blessing of my motherhood. Learning hymns and poems and getting excited to recite this beautiful poetry
Yeah.
and seeing classical things come out of them in a way that they weren't before has just been a really sweet spot of motherhood for us in a kind of difficult season. It has definitely saved us in a lot of ways in the last year, for sure.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I appreciate you taking the time.
Yes, of course.
I'm here today with Allison Beverly, and we are going to chat about her experience with the Dental Feast. So thanks for being willing to talk.
Of course, I'm excited. This is one of my favorite things to talk about with people, so I'm good.
Hey, can you share a little bit about how you found a Dental Feast? We'll start there. Go back to the beginning.
Yeah, okay. So I was not ever thinking I was going to homeschool, as I'm sure a lot of people can relate to.
Yeah.
But my husband was homeschooled, and it was really important to him for us to homeschool our kids. So even though I wasn't a post-COVID homeschooler, I was not a willing homeschooler really either. I felt like I didn't have the equipment to do it. I felt like I was not trained to do it, and I didn't feel capable. And I was nervous. I was going to mess my kids up. But wasn't going to cover everything. And when we compromised on a private Christian school, my oldest child's kindergarten year. And then I really did feel that conviction to homeschool after that. Mm-hmm. And just to make sure I covered all my bases, I actually just followed a curriculum that was posted by a local private school to make sure my bases were covered. Yeah, it was a classical-based curriculum, and I realized pretty quickly that wasn't jiving for us. Just all the memorization, and then talking to my kids about it and realizing they had no clue what anything was. They could recite it back to me, but they had no context and no idea what they were telling me at the time. And that didn't make sense to me, didn't make sense to my husband. And we said, we're going to try to switch gears here. And my beautiful sisters-in-law introduced me to the book For the Children's Sake. And I listened to that actually on a cross-country military move for 3 days. My husband in the car, we listened to that. And I said, we need to do something like this.
Oh, that's great that you could listen to it together. I love that idea. That's really a great idea, actually.
It was lovely. And we had lots of great discussions about it. And we decided we need to figure this out. So then I started really diving into the Charlotte Mason method. And I realized I felt even less equipped than I had doing any other thing. I was like, what do I even do with this?
Yeah.
And I knew a lot of people that used Ambleside, but I just opened that up and my brain shut down. I was like, I do not understand how to implement this daily across 6 kids.
Yeah.
And that's when I started looking more into it and found A Gentle Feast and realized, oh, this tells me what to do. It tells me what chapter, it tells me how to break up my week. And it just made everything attainable in a Charlotte Mason view. And we jumped on it. And I actually made that decision knowing we were going to be travel schooling for the next school year. And it so well in with that, in that I could get a lot of things digitally. A lot of the books on the book list I could find on Kindle for 99 cents or Internet Archive, or even a YouTube video of it, picture book being read. And so when we were going to be traveling and I couldn't haul a bunch of books, I could still implement this method that we had really felt convicted to follow using A Gentle Feast.
Yeah, we have a whole interview where you talk about travel schooling. So if someone's interested in that, I'll put that down in the link if people are watching the video of this. But that's such a cool experience, and that's great that it was able to fit into that. And then you've had some military moves on top of that, some fun life sprinkles.
Yeah, we had deployments and new babies and all of that. But that's what I loved, is even after 1 year of A Gentle Feast, school was no longer a check the box chore like it had been for the first couple of years I homeschooled. And it really became more of a learning lifestyle. And it was just so easy to integrate that into just living life with my family versus we're trapped here at a desk for hours on end filling out worksheets and
Yeah.
having individual attention to 3 kids, an hour and a half each. And now I can do everyone's school in 3 hours. So it really made a huge difference in my confidence as a homeschool parent.
That's wonderful. What ages are your kids now?
My oldest is starting Form 3 this year. She just turned 13 last week. And my youngest is 5. So he'll be starting Form 1 in the fall.
So how do you feel like it works with having kids of multiple ages? Like, how have you found your rhythm with that?
Oh, that's another thing I absolutely love. And I love it so much. I actually took notes on it, so I couldn't remember what to say.
So cute.
But I'll start with when I first started researching homeschooling, I found this fascinating article about the decline of sibling relationships in the modern world and how that was greatly attributed to public school and kids being separated for so long. And I just love homeschooling in general fosters more of that bond because your kids are around each other. But a gentle feast even more so because they're actually learning the same thing. It's not just we're all sitting here and we've got our workbook. We're all learning the same thing. And so I've absolutely loved that about a gentle feast in that we're all, even if I'm reading the Dallaire Ben Franklin picture book to one child and my daughter is reading Ben and Me, they're in different forms, but they're having the same story. And when we talk about things, something comes up at dinner, somebody has a question, they can all feel like they're involved in the conversation. I also absolutely love how they're laid out in forms instead of by grade, because I have multiple students in each form. And sometimes my younger student in that form is doing more advanced work than my older student at that form. But my older student isn't feeling like they're behind or feeling inadequate, right? I'm able to more pace appropriate per child, give them their own personal pacing and give them the attention they need in certain areas without them getting discouraged. And that's really encouraging too. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I've done that with my own kids too, of bouncing back between the different forms. And then the next year we do something different as they grow. And it allows you to like really meet your kid where they're at and give them that individualized instruction rather than just you're in this grade, so thou shalt do all these things.
And even within the forms, like you can have, okay, my first grader right now is reading the 3rd grade literature books because she's ready and I can give her that. Yet my 2nd grader, who should maybe possibly be in 3rd grade age-wise, still reading the Step Into Reader selections you give in the optional reading list. And it's fantastic because they still feel like they can participate and they're learning, but they're not competing, even though they're in the same form. You can spread it out. And then you can also do things with my oldest, my 2 boys in Form 2. One of them's ready for written narrations and the other one's not quite there yet. So even though they can still do the lessons together, just make sure that they're understanding it. I can use a different tool for each kid. So it's been really great.
Yeah, that's cool. What do you think has been the biggest blessing for you in terms of how your kids have grown in this method?
Oh man, I love how this method promotes critical and independent thinking versus just memorizing and regurgitating. Like that for sure. Seeing the kids' light bulb moments. I did mention in my podcast interview one story about my son having a light bulb moment when we were traveling after learning about the Spanish-American War. But my other son, he gets out of bed every night. He loves to listen to audiobooks going to bed. And he wants to come down, which can get frustrating sometimes. You take a deep breath. You're supposed to be in bed, but he wants to tell my husband and I like what he's thinking about this audiobook. And it's just become so natural to want to talk about what we're learning. Yep. So back to how this has really been a lifestyle. And that's been the biggest blessing for sure.
Yeah. So what would you say to a parent who's, I want to start, but I'm not quite sure if this is the right fit or where to start?
I would definitely point them at the new Feast Life table. I felt like that really gives so much direction. I feel like it would have been more, it was difficult for me to jump in without watching someone do it. And thankfully my sister-in-laws were able to like show me, oh, here's how you do it.
Oh, that's awesome.
But it isn't even with it broken down to be like, how is this narration? If I can't watch someone perform it, how am I going to understand what I'm teaching? So I would definitely point, the Feast Life table looks fantastic. I can't wait to try it because it's got the extra not hand holding, but an extra guidance on how to make sure to give you confidence to make sure you're implementing things correctly. That kind of came out.
No, it was all good. Thanks so much for talking today. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
was there anything you wanted to say that I didn't ask you about, or I don't want to shut you off?
No, I think I'm like looking at my notes. What else did I want to say?
I just wanted to make sure there wasn't something that
no, okay. I did want to say one more thing that I loved about it is how it's set up with a seamless flow. So before, when I was homeschooling with different methods, my kids were sitting at the table with their worksheet and it was so long and so drawn out. But if I go for a break, I could not wrangle them back in. It was like, oh, school's done, brains off. And it was like hats to get everybody to come do the next lesson. And so I really love the flow of a general feast and how we are learning for the same hours on end, but we are going from a writing lesson to a listening lesson to a speaking portion. And we can rotate in those manageable spurts of different subjects and cycle through those. So we can stay focused and we can retain the material better, but we're not restricted to our chair and to one thing. And it's been really nice.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good point because I feel like we think that learning can only happen when you're sitting at the table. And that's just 100% not true. But then is this okay? Is this enough? And seeing how it can flow and how you can fit it in different ways. I love that you've been able to adapt and make it work for your family that way. So thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you liked this episode, please heart it down below and make sure you subscribe so you never miss an episode. Leave a comment and let me know what you learned in today's episode. I'd love to hear from you.